I never liked airports. They always felt too bright and too loud and too full of people rushing toward lives I was not part of. Yet that morning I walked through the terminal with my son in my arms and tried to pretend I belonged there. Bean slept against my chest in a sling that was 2 sizes too small. His tiny body rose and fell with steady breaths. Mine did not. My lungs kept starting and stopping like my chest could not decide whether bravery was real or just something I kept imagining. The announcement for our flight played above me. My stomach tightened. I rubbed Bean's back to calm myself. His scent was faint and warm, a small comfort. I whispered a quiet promise against his hair. I told him we would be safe. I told him the journey would lead us somewhere kinder. I hoped I was not lying. When I reached my seat near the rear of the cabin, I sat carefully. Bean shifted. I pressed my hand over the sling until he settled again. My fingers trembled. I blamed the cold. It was easier than admitting fear. People moved down the aisle. Their luggage knocked my elbow. Nobody apologized. I kept my gaze low. The air carried a mix of pheromones from travelers who did not care that an omega sat among them. I tried to keep mine contained. The suppressant I took earlier had dulled my scent but not my instincts. My senses sharpened under stress. I could smell impatience. I could smell hunger. I could smell exhaustion. Then something sharper cut through the haze. A deep alpha scent. Cedar with a bitter trace of something burned. My heart thudded. Whoever released that presence was powerful. More powerful than any alpha I had ever passed in public. The air itself seemed to lean in that direction as if it recognized a higher rank. I ignored the instinctive pull and kept my eyes on Bean. His tiny fist poked out of the sling. I tucked it back inside gently. The lights dimmed as passengers took their seats. The engines rumbled. As the plane lifted, I breathed slowly to keep my pheromones from drifting beyond my skin. For 10 minutes, everything remained calm. Then a cry erupted. It was not Bean. It was a higher pitch. Younger. Raw. The sound pierced through the cabin and made the space feel smaller. Several passengers groaned quietly. Someone muttered under their breath. I straightened and listened more closely. Another cry followed. Louder. More desperate. My instincts rose like a tide. I whispered to Bean that everything was all right. He slept through the noise. I wished I could do the same. The crying grew stronger. Not a fussy cry. Not a brief complaint. The kind that told me the baby felt overwhelmed. Or frightened. Or hurting. My chest warmed painfully. A sensation I knew far too well. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep myself from reacting too quickly. The aisle parted. A man approached with a baby bundled against his shoulder. The child was red-faced and shaking with sobs. The man held him with a grip that was secure but tense in a way that told me he had been trying for a while. I glanced up. That alpha scent from earlier came from him. He looked like someone carrying both a child and a storm. His suit was tailored but his tie was loosened. His dark hair was pushed back with hurried fingers. His eyes were silver gray and strained. They flicked upward. They met mine by accident. For a brief second he looked exposed. A powerful alpha caught in the helplessness of parenthood. He gave a hoarse apology to the row ahead of me. His voice cracked with weariness. The baby screamed harder. A few passengers shifted away as if the sound were contagious. The alpha murmured something soothing to the child, but his pheromone was frayed with anxiety. That only unsettled the baby more. My body responded before my mind found words. My chest ached. My sense stirred in a small protective wave. A quiet instinct that could not be held down. My milk let down with a sting of pressure that made me gasp. The alpha noticed the sound. He turned slightly. His gaze locked on me again. Confusion crossed his features. The child on his shoulder cried until he hiccuped. I rose from my seat. My legs shook. I hoped no one noticed. "Excuse me," I said softly. The alpha blinked like he had not expected anyone to speak to him. Especially not an omega. "Yes," he said. Came out like a plea. I swallowed. My throat tightened around the words. "He is hungry. He will not come with your scent like this. I can help. If you are comfortable with it." For a moment he just stared at me, as if the world had become too strange, or as if an omega offering kindness made no sense to him. I waited. My heartbeat felt loud enough to shake the floor. "Please," he whispered. His voice cracked the same way the baby cried. I do not know what else to do. A flight attendant saw us and hurried over. She guided him toward the small space behind the curtain that separated cabins. I followed with Bean against my chest. The attendant offered a thin blanket for coverage. I nodded in thanks. The alpha shifted to sit. His movements were careful but unsure. His hands trembled. He held the baby out to me. I looked at the child closely. His eyes were squeezed shut from crying. His fists were tight. His scent was muddled with the alpha's overstressed pheromone. I felt my milk let down again. Powerful tug in my ribs and stomach. I whispered to him gently, "It is all right, little one. I have you now." The baby quieted for 1 second. Then he whimpered weakly. I cradled him against my chest. I loosened the sling just enough to adjust Bean. My son continued sleeping peacefully. I lifted the blanket the attendant provided and positioned the infant. The moment he latched, the air softened. His tiny body relaxed against mine. The crying ceased. His breathing steadied. I let out a breath I had been holding. The alpha stared in absolute disbelief. His shoulders dropped. His entire presence changed. The angry edges of his pheromone melted into something warm, something controlled, something almost gentle. "How did you do that?" he whispered. "Babies know when someone feels safe," I said quietly. "They respond to warmth, to steady scent, to touch that does not shake." He lowered his gaze. Shame flickered across his expression. Then gratitude, deep and raw. "Thank you," he said. He touched a hand to his forehead like he needed to steady himself. "I have tried everything. I cannot seem to get it right." He looked at Bean, then back at me. "You are his parent. You must have learned all of this the hard way." I shrugged a little. "Hard is one word for it." He breathed out slowly. "I am Aiden." I rested the baby in a more secure hold. "Eli," I answered. Aiden nodded once, as if committing the name to memory. We sat in silence for a moment. The baby nursed with soft sounds. Bean rested in the sling with a peaceful sigh. I felt Aiden watching every gentle movement. His gaze softened. His scent calmed more each second. Behind us, someone in the cabin grumbled loudly. Another passenger muttered something about omegas and attention-seeking. I ignored it. I focused on the child in my arms. Aiden did not ignore it. His head snapped up. His eyes sharpened. His alpha presence rose with silent warning. The air tightened for a heartbeat. The cabin fell quiet. After a moment, he forced himself to relax. He turned back toward me with a controlled breath. "No one should speak about you like that," he said. "Not after what you just did." I kept my voice even. "People talk. It is fine." "It is not fine," he replied. The firmness in his tone startled me. His gaze held mine. "Let me be clear. You did something extraordinary." My face warmed. "No, I did what any omega would have done." He shook his head. His eyes softened again. "Most people look away when others struggle. You stepped forward." The praise unsettled me. I looked away and focused on the baby to steady myself. His small hand pressed against my skin. His breathing evened out. My heart eased. Aiden broke the quiet. "Something happened to me." He hesitated. "When I saw you with him, my pheromone changed. I do not understand it." My breath caught. I felt it too. A subtle pull. A shift in the air. A thread of something unnamed. I said nothing. Aiden studied me as if trying to unravel both of us. "Eli," he said softly, "may I ask something?" "Yes." "When we land, may we talk? I need help." He glanced at the baby. He looked at Bean. Then he looked at me. "Please." The request hung between us. Heavy. Unpredictable. Real. I nodded before I could stop myself. "Yes, Aiden. We can talk." His shoulders loosened. Relief passed over him like a slow exhale. "Thank you," he murmured. The baby finished nursing. I wiped his cheek gently. His eyes opened a little. clear and calm. I handed him back to Aiden. The alpha held him more securely than before, more confidently, more tenderly. When he looked up, his expression held something new, something bright beneath the grief. "We will talk after we land," Aiden said again. I touched the sling around Bean to steady myself. "Yes, we will." The engines hummed through the floor. Light flickered along the ceiling. Somewhere beyond the curtain, a passenger shifted in their seat. The moment was small, quiet, yet it changed something inside both of us. I just did not know how much it would change. Not yet. I always believed silence after a difficult moment could give a person time to breathe. Yet the quiet between Aiden and me after the plane landed felt charged rather than peaceful. The plane rolled toward the gate. People stood and reached for luggage. The aisle filled with a mix of voices. None of it sounded close. My focus stayed on Bean in the sling and on the tall figure a few rows ahead. Aiden held Lucas with more assurance now. His grip was softer, his touch steadier. His eyes kept searching the aisle until they found me. When our gazes met, I felt a warm shift inside my chest. I looked away out of instinct. It felt too intimate for a crowded cabin. As passengers poured out of the plane, a flight attendant waited near the door. She glanced at me with a small smile that held something like respect. Maybe she understood more than she let on. She thanked me for my help. I gave her a quiet reply. Then I stepped into the jet bridge and inhaled. The air smelled faintly metallic, different from the recycled air we had breathed for hours. Bean stirred against me. I rubbed his back gently. I did not make it far before I heard a voice behind me. "Eli." I turned. Aiden walked toward me with Lucas in his arms. People parted around him. His presence made space for him without effort. His eyes looked clearer now, not as dimmed. He stopped close enough that I could see faint stubble along his jaw. He shifted Lucas to his other arm. "May we talk somewhere quiet?" he asked. My pulse warmed. "Yes, we can." He nodded. "Thank you." We moved past the terminal crowd. Aiden led the way toward a lounge that appeared private enough for a real conversation. The moment the door closed behind us, the noise from the corridor faded. A large window overlooked the runway. Sunlight spread across the floor. Aiden sat facing me. Lucas rested calmly against his chest. There was a softness in the child's expression that had not existed before. Aiden took a slow breath. His voice lowered. "I am grateful for what you did on the plane. That is why I need to ask something important. I need help with him. Cannot leave him with anyone. They all try. They all fail. My scent overwhelms him when I am under too much pressure. He needs stability. You created that without effort." His eyes darkened with something heavier. "I cannot keep struggling like this. His safety matters. More than my work. More than my pride." He lifted a hand and let it rest on Lucas's back. "Please consider helping me care for him while I sort out the rest of my life." I swallowed. Bean pressed a hand against my chest from inside the sling. I traced my thumb over his small knuckles. Every instinct inside me blinked awake. "You barely know me," I said. Aiden shook his head slowly. "That is not true." He stood closer to me in a few hours than most people do in years. "He stopped crying with you." His scent softened. My own calmed. "That is not something I can ignore." I hesitated. My heart pulled one way. My logic tugged another. I wanted to protect Bean from anything unpredictable. I wanted to protect myself too. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" I whispered. Aiden straightened slightly. "For now, I am asking you to come home with us. Temporarily. You would have a room for yourself and Bean. You would care for Lucas while I work. You would be paid fairly. I would provide housing. You would not be placed in danger." His voice softened. "You would not be treated as lesser. I promise that." I stared at my hands. I felt small and strange. I had no idea what his world looked like. I had never stepped inside a home that belonged to someone like him. My throat tightened from uncertainty. "Why me?" I asked. Aiden looked down at Lucas. Then he raised his head again. "Because he chose you." Babies sense truth. "He chose you before I understood what he needed." A faint shock ran down my spine. I looked at Bean. His cheek rested against the sling. His breath brushed my skin. He was my first priority. He always would be. Aiden seemed to read the hesitation on my face. His voice fell to a hush. Eli, let me offer you something real. A safe place. A steady income. A moment to breathe. You deserve that. Bean deserves that. The sincerity in his tone startled me more than anything else. There was strength in his words, but also gentleness. A combination I had never witnessed in an alpha before. Most felt like storms. He felt like a storm learning how to stop hurting itself. I exhaled slowly. My voice came out quiet. I cannot promise long term. I can only try. Aiden nodded once. That is enough. The decision settled between us. Felt delicate. Felt terrifying. Felt right. We left the lounge together. The terminal hummed with life. Aiden walked by my side without overshadowing me. Not once did he attempt to push or direct me with scent or posture. He simply remained close. I noticed a few people glance in our direction. Some recognized him. Some whispered. He ignored them all. Outside the airport, a sleek car waited. The driver stepped out and opened the door. Aiden thanked him. I did not expect that level of politeness. It made me pause. He noticed my surprise and gave a small smile. I treat people with respect, he said. Titles do not matter to me. I climbed inside the car carefully. Bean shifted as I adjusted the sling. His tiny hand reached for my collar. I kissed his forehead. Lucas rested in Aiden's arms and looked around with wide, curious eyes. The vehicle moved smoothly. The city passed in slow motion outside the window. Aiden spoke after a moment. My home is farther than most would expect. It belonged to my grandparents. I kept it because it feels grounded, peaceful. I hope it is not too large for you. The tone of his voice suggested a hidden concern, as if he worried I might feel overwhelmed. I answered honestly. I have lived in basements that smelled of mildew. I have slept in rooms with no heat. I think any place with a door, a bed, and no shouting neighbors will feel like paradise. Aiden turned his head slightly. His eyes softened. His scent rippled through the air. A warm scent. A soothing scent. It brushed over my senses and settled there. My fingers tightened on the sling to steady myself. When we reached his home, the gate opened silently. I expected something intimidating. Something cold. Instead, the property felt alive with color. Trees lined the driveway. Leaves danced gently across the grass. The building itself carried a sense of quiet elegance. Large windows reflected the sky. The entrance had soft lighting that made the stone path look welcoming. Aiden guided me inside. The foyer was filled with light. The air smelled clean. Not sterile. Personal. A soft arrangement of flowers sat on a table. The scent blended with his. It made me feel strangely safe. He led me through the hall. We passed a living area filled with gentle colors and comfortable seats. There were no signs of excessive luxury. Only warmth. He paused near a staircase. Your room is ready, he said. I had someone prepare it quickly. If anything is missing, you only need to tell me. I nodded. Thank you. He hesitated. His gaze lowered to Bean. Would you like help with your bags? Or would you prefer privacy for a moment? I answered honestly. I can carry everything myself. He stepped back slightly to give me space. I climbed the stairs. The corridor upstairs was quiet. A soft rug muffled my footsteps. I reached the door he indicated and entered. The room surprised me. The bed looked large enough for comfort but not overly extravagant. A cradle stood near the corner with clean sheets. A small pile of baby supplies sat neatly beside it. The window offered a view of the garden. Flowers swayed outside. Afternoon light streamed in and painted the floor with gold. I exhaled, overwhelmed by the sudden gentleness of the space. Bean stirred. I kissed the top of his head and whispered that everything looked safe. A knock sounded at the door. Aiden's voice carried through in a quiet tone. May I come in? Yes. He stepped inside. He looked around the room as if checking every detail. Then he faced me. "Will this work for you?" he asked. I nodded again. "It is more than enough." His shoulders loosened. "Good. I want you to feel at ease here." He paused. "Eli, if anything feels wrong, tell me. I will not allow anyone or anything to threaten you or the children." My chest tightened. His eyes held no arrogance. Only conviction. "Thank you, Aiden," I whispered. He stepped closer. Not too close. Just a single step. His scent brushed mine. A warm flicker passed up my spine. His gaze dropped to my lips. My breath caught. For a moment neither of us moved. The room felt smaller. The air thicker. The space between us carried an invisible pull. My fingertips trembled. Aiden spoke softly. "I do not want to overwhelm you. I only want honesty." I held his gaze. "You are not overwhelming me." Something softened in his expression. He leaned in slightly. My pulse fluttered. Being shifted again, which broke the moment. I swallowed. Aiden drew in a slow breath and stepped back. "Rest. Settle in," he said. "We can speak later." He left the room quietly. I watched the door close. My heart pounded in my chest. Bean sighed softly and curled against me. I carried him to the cradle and laid him inside with care. I stroked his cheek. He relaxed again. I sat on the bed. My hands shook from the weight of everything that had changed. I had walked onto a plane without a future. I now sat in a room filled with sunlight in the home of a man whose presence pulled at something deep inside me. I should have felt trapped. Instead, I felt a strange calm. I whispered to myself that I would stay for now. Only for now. Yet deep inside I wondered how long that promise would last. The first nights in Aiden's home passed like slow tides. Calm moments rose and fell between quiet discoveries. Lucas adjusted to my presence with surprising ease. Bean slept peacefully in the cradle beside my bed. I learned the rhythm of the house. I learned the way sunlight moved across the hall at dawn. I learned the way Aiden lowered his voice when he entered the room where the children rested. Every detail shifted something inside me. Everything felt fragile and new. One evening I stood in the small laundry room with a basket of clothing. I folded tiny shirts with careful fingers. The familiar scent of cotton and soap helped settle my thoughts. I tried not to notice how often my mind drifted toward the sound of Aiden's footsteps. I tried to ignore the way my pulse responded every time his scent passed the edge of the doorway. I looked ridiculous arguing with myself. I knew it. Yet the truth sat heavy inside my chest. I was afraid of the comfort that had started forming around us. Comfort always came with a price in my past. I never forgot that. As I finished the last shirt, I heard footsteps stop outside the room. A soft knock followed. "Eli." His voice carried a weight that made my breath catch. "Yes. Come in." Aiden stepped inside. He held a thin envelope in his hand. His expression held a tightness that worried me. He looked different from earlier hours. Tension shadowed his posture. His jaw was set. Something serious sat behind his eyes. I set the basket aside. "What is wrong?" He looked at the envelope. Then he looked at me. I found something while I was sorting personal papers. Something I did not expect to ever see again. He hesitated. "This belonged to my wife. She wrote it shortly before she passed." I felt a subtle ache bloom low in my chest. I had not heard him speak about her beyond a few quiet references. The grief in his scent now felt deeper, darker, more complex. He offered the envelope to me. I was unsure whether to take it. My hands hovered. "I do not think I should read her letter," I whispered. Aiden met my eyes. "There is something about you inside it. I need you to know. I need you to understand this connection is not chance." My breath stilled. I reached out slowly and accepted the envelope. The paper felt delicate beneath my fingertips. I opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten letter. The ink had faded slightly. The handwriting looked elegant and steady. I read the first line, then the next. Each sentence struck me with growing disbelief. Aiden watched me silently. I kept reading. My heart climbed into my throat. The letter described a moment in a hospital. A frightened woman who felt alone. A woman who heard someone humming through the thin wall separating patient rooms. She wrote about an Omega who comforted her without knowing her name. She wrote about kind eyes she could not forget. She wrote about me. My vision blurred slightly. I blinked hard until the room came back into focus. I held the letter close to my chest. I did not know it was her, I whispered. My voice shook. I did not know who she was. I only heard someone crying and I could not leave her alone. Aiden closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his expression softened. She remembered you. She trusted you. She asked me to find the person who helped her. She believed you would matter to our son. And to me. Emotion swelled in my chest until it felt painful. I had no words. Only breath and trembling hands. Aiden stepped closer. Not enough to crowd me. Just enough to make the room feel warmer. Eli, you walked into my life twice. Once without knowing. Once by fate. I cannot ignore that. I folded the letter and held it carefully. I would never have expected this. Not in any dream. Not in any imagined future. I felt a strange guilt in standing inside this man's home holding something so intimate. Something from a woman he had loved deeply. I looked up. Aiden, are you sure this does not hurt you? That I am here? That I am part of his life now? He shook his head slowly. His voice deepened. You bring peace where there is pain. I did not think that was possible anymore. Before I could respond, Bean began to cry from upstairs. The soft, desperate sound rose through the house. I excused myself and hurried up the stairs. Aiden followed behind me. The moment I reached the room, Bean reached both arms up. I lifted him quickly. I held him against my chest and rubbed his back. His breathing eased. Aiden watched from the doorway. His scent shifted again. Softer again. He stepped into the room. You are good with him, he said quietly. I pressed my cheek against Bean's hair. I try my best. Aiden moved closer. His eyes lingered on us. There was something vulnerable in his gaze. Something open. That softness made my chest tighten. Aiden's voice lowered. Eli, I want to ask you something that may be difficult. I looked at him. What is it? Have you always been alone in caring for him? I hesitated. The truth was heavy, but there was no point in concealing it. Yes, I said. I raised him myself. Aiden nodded with a slow understanding. Then he took another step. His scent filled the room like warm heat spreading through cool air. I felt my pulse rise. My fingers curled slightly against Bean's blanket. Before I could gather my thoughts, the doorbell rang downstairs. A sharp sound. Loud. Harsh. I felt my entire body stiffen. Aiden frowned and turned toward the stairs. Stay here, he said. His voice deepened in a way I had not heard before. Protective. Firm. His alpha instincts rose like a wave. He moved quickly. I followed partway down the hall despite his request. I kept being held tightly in my arms. My heart pounded. I heard muffled voices near the front door. One voice cut through the air with a tone I recognized instantly. A tone that froze my blood. Ryan. I stopped at the top of the stairs. My breath turned shallow. Bean pressed his face against my shoulder. My arms tightened around him. My vision wavered. The front door opened wider. Aiden's voice darkened. You should leave. Now. Ryan scoffed. I came to see Eli. He owes me answers. Aiden stepped into view. His shoulders squared. His presence filled the entryway. My scent bristled with fear and something else. Anger. Shame. Old wounds. I took one slow step down. My voice shook. Ryan, why are you here? He tilted his head and smirked in a way that made my stomach twist. I heard a rumor. He gestured at the house. I heard you found yourself a new benefactor. A wealthy alpha. Very convenient for you. My throat closed. I hugged Bean closer. Aiden's scent flared with warning. I felt it like heat against my skin. Ryan sneered. I want my son back. Or I want compensation. You can decide. My vision darkened at the edges. I could not breathe. The room spun. My pheromones spiked in panic. The floor seemed to tilt. I felt my pulse hammer in my throat. I clutched the railing to stay upright. Aiden moved before I could collapse. He climbed the stairs in rapid strides. He reached me and caught my waist with steady hands. His scent engulfed me. Warm. Grounded. Solid. "Eli, breathe," he said. His voice was low and steady. His eyes focused on mine. "Look at me. Stay with me." I pressed my forehead against his shoulder. My body shook. The atmosphere pressed against my ribs. My pheromones scattered wildly. I could not control any of it. My breathing quickened. Aiden cupped the back of my neck. His thumb traced my skin gently. His scent wrapped around mine with controlled precision. A slow, steady flow. His presence anchored me. The panic slowed enough for me to find air. I whispered against his shirt. "I cannot face him." He drew me closer. "Yes, you can. But you will not face him alone." I trembled in his hold. Bean let out a small whimper. Aiden touched the back of Bean's head carefully. His voice softened. "I will protect both of you. I promise you that." Something inside me broke open at those words. I lifted my head to look at him. His face was close. His eyes were intense. Our breaths mingled. Aiden whispered, "Eli, stay with me. Stay here." My lips parted. My pulse surged. For a moment the world shrank to the space between us, to the warmth where our scents touched. His thumb brushed my cheek, a gentle stroke that made my breath catch. I whispered his name, "Aiden." His gaze dropped to my mouth. He inhaled slowly. The scent between us grew richer, warmer. My body leaned forward without thought. Then Bean shifted against my chest and whimpered again. The spell cracked. I stepped back slightly. Aiden blinked. He steadied his breathing. His jaw tightened with restraint. He looked down the stairs toward Ryan. His voice lowered to a lethal calm. "I will deal with him. You stay with the children. You do not need to face him today." I nodded. My knees felt weak. My heart raced. Aiden brushed a hand over my arm. His touch was brief but full of meaning. "You are safe," he said. Then he turned toward the door. I watched him walk away. His posture promised confrontation. His scent promised loyalty. My legs trembled. Bean curled closer to me. I whispered to him that everything would be all right. Still, deep inside my chest, a storm gathered. A storm that would change everything again. A strange stillness filled the house after Aiden walked downstairs to confront Ryan. I remained at the top of the staircase with Bean resting anxiously against my shoulder. My arms tightened around him. His small fingers clung to the collar of my shirt as if he sensed the tension pulsing through the air. The scent in the house shifted with every breath. Aiden's presence expanded and changed shape. His pheromone grew heavy, protective, focused. I had never felt anything like it. It moved along the walls like a shield. I whispered to Bean that everything was under control even though my own nerves trembled beneath my skin. I could hear Ryan's voice rising from the entryway. Sharp edges. Cold intentions. His tone held the same arrogance I once mistook for strength. I listened to the low rumble of Aiden's reply. Controlled sound. Deep and steady. He did not need volume. His authority lived in the way each word carried certainty. I did not want to hear more. I leaned against the railing and rocked Bean gently. I kissed the top of his head and felt his breathing calm. I continued to hold him until his eyelids fluttered closed. I laid him carefully in the cradle in my room. He stirred, then relaxed. When I stepped back, I heard the softest cry drifting through the hallway. "Lucas." His small voice tugged at my heart instantly. I moved quickly toward the nursery. A faint glow from a nightlight illuminated the room. Lucas sat up with tears pooling in his eyes. His scent trembled with distress. I hurried to him and lifted him into my arms. He pressed his face against my chest and clung tightly to my shirt. I hushed him gently until his shaking slowed. "You are all right," I whispered. "You are safe. Promise." His little body softened against mine. The tension in the house continued to churn though. I could feel it moving under the surface like distant thunder. I rocked him until he stopped crying. Then I carried him toward my bedroom in case he felt more secure near Bean. When I reached my doorway, I noticed something unexpected. A warm scent drifted from downstairs. It held a new note: purpose, unshakable resolve. I sat on the edge of the bed with Lucas in my arms. His small fingers curled in the fabric near my heart. I felt a rush of tenderness for him that surprised me with its intensity. I held him close and whispered to him until his breathing steadied. Footsteps echoed up the stairs. I turned my head quickly. My pulse jumped. Aiden appeared at the top landing. His expression looked carved from silence and fire at the same time. His eyes sought mine instantly. His scent poured into the hallway as he stepped closer. His voice was softer than I expected. "Is he all right?" I nodded. He cried a little. "He is calm now." Aiden stepped into my room. His gaze landed on Lucas in my arms. Something shifted inside his eyes. A mixture of grief and affection and fierce devotion. He reached out and touched the back of Lucas's head. The child sighed at the familiar scent and leaned toward him. Aiden lifted his son carefully. He pressed a kiss to the top of Lucas's hair. The moment felt intimate in a quiet and fragile way. When he looked up, there was a new hardness in his gaze. "Ryan will not be returning here," he said. His tone carried no hesitation. "I have made that clear." My breath released slowly. What did he do? What did he say? Aiden's jaw tightened. He came to demand money. He came to claim a child he willingly abandoned. There was a pause. Then Aiden looked directly at me. "I told him that your safety in this home is not negotiable. I also told him he will face legal consequences if he tries to approach you again." My legs weakened slightly. I sat down on the bed again. It felt like a weight lifted off my chest and then settled back again with a different heaviness. Aiden stepped closer. His presence filled the room until it felt warmer. He sat beside me. He kept Lucas in one arm and faced me without looking away. "Eli," he said gently, "tell me the truth. How long has he frightened you?" I stared at my hands. I felt a pressure behind my eyes. Not tears. Something deeper. Something that had been building for too long. I answered quietly, "Too long." Aiden inhaled sharply. The scent around him deepened. I felt it wrap around us like a protective barrier. He did not speak for several seconds. When he finally did, his voice was low. "You should never have gone through that alone." I looked up slowly. My voice shook. I had no one to stand with me. I had been. That was enough. I learned to protect myself because I had to. Aiden's gaze softened in a way that hurt more than any cruelty ever had. He lifted his free hand and touched my cheek with a gentle pressure. His fingers brushed my skin. A warmth moved through me faster than breath. His scent swept through the room again. It brushed against mine like a tide meeting another tide. "You do not have to be alone now," he said. "I will not let that happen again." Lucas reached toward me with a sleepy sound. Aiden let him lean against my shoulder. His arm brushed mine. The warmth of his body seeped through my skin. For a moment the world felt strangely small. Only the children's breaths. Only the quiet humming of the house. Only the soft pulse of scent between us. Aiden spoke again. His voice had changed. Something new lived there. "I need you to understand something. Eli, I am not asking you to stay because of what happened today. I am asking because your presence changes the air in this home. You bring peace where there was chaos. You bring warmth where there was distance. And I am drawn to you in ways I did not think possible again." My breath caught. The words struck me deep in my ribs. "Aiden, you cannot say things like that. Not when everything is so uncertain." He leaned slightly closer. Only a fraction of an inch. A careful movement. I could see every detail of his face. The faint lines around his eyes. The slight tension in his brow. The longing he tried to conceal but could not completely hide. "I speak only when I am certain," he said. "And I have never been more certain in my life." My heart thudded painfully. I held Lucas a little tighter to keep my hands from shaking. Aiden looked down at my mouth. The air thickened. My throat felt dry. My scent flickered anxiously. His responded in a controlled wave. I forced myself to breathe. "You cannot want this. You do not know everything about me." Tell me then, he whispered. I closed my eyes. My voice wavered. I am terrified, I said. I am scared that if I stay you will regret letting someone like me into your life. I am scared that Bean will get attached and one day everything will fall apart. I am scared of wanting you. Silence enveloped us. Aiden shifted Lucas gently and placed the child on the bed. Lucas rolled quietly and curled near a pillow. When he was sure the boy would not wake, he turned back to me. His posture was steady, his gaze unwavering. Eli, look at me. I opened my eyes slowly. He reached out and cupped my jaw with both hands. The warmth of his palms made my breath shorten. His scent surrounded me with steady insistence. His eyes held mine with clear intent. I am not going anywhere, he said softly. And if you want me, you do not have to hide it. His thumb traced my cheek. A delicate touch. My entire body leaned toward him before I realized it. The pull between us slid through the air like a whisper of inevitability. Aiden's mouth lowered a little. Not enough to close the distance fully. Enough to make my lips part. Enough to make my heart race wildly. Eli, he murmured. May I? My voice was a breath. Yes. He moved in slowly. His lips pressed against mine. A gentle kiss at first. A question shaped in softness. I answered by leaning closer. The kiss deepened with careful warmth. His scent flowed through me in waves. My hands rose to his shoulders without thought. He drew me in with calm certainty. The heat between us pulsed with something new. Not instinct alone. Not pheromone alone. Something real. When we finally parted, I rested my forehead against his. My breathing felt uneven. His did too. He whispered, I want you, and I will stand with you. Not because of duty. Not because of guilt. Because I choose you. My chest ached with emotion. I could not speak. I pressed my hand over his heart instead. His breath caught. A soft cry sounded behind us. Lucas stirred. Bean shifted in the cradle. Aiden smiled faintly. Reality settled back into the room. The moment faded into something quieter but no less meaningful. He brushed his thumb along my jaw one last time. Then he whispered, whatever comes next, we face it together. For the first time in years, I believed that might be true. The morning after everything changed began with a stillness that felt almost unreal. Sunlight drifted across the floor in pale streaks. The house remained calm. Bean and Lucas played with wooden blocks near the rug. Their laughter rose softly through the room like a small melody. I watched them while leaning against the table. My hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea. The quiet felt gentle. Felt earned. Aiden walked in from the adjoining hallway. His hair was slightly tousled. His shirt sleeves were rolled up. His expression carried a softness I had not seen in him before. When he saw me, he slowed his steps as if he did not want to disturb whatever peace had settled over the space. Are you all right? He asked. I nodded. Yes. Better than I expected. Good. He exhaled a little. His shoulders eased. Then he crossed the room and stood beside me. His presence was warm. His scent shifted subtly in a way that told me he was in a calmer state. I felt a quiet pull toward him. A gentle heat starting beneath my skin. The children continued to play. Lucas looked up at Aiden with a smile that reached his entire face. Aiden picked him up with one swift movement and lifted him slightly into the air. Lucas squealed with delight. The sound softened something inside me further. I had never imagined seeing them like this. Comfortable. Safe. Loved. When Aiden placed Lucas back down, he turned to me. His eyes held a seriousness beneath the warmth. We need to speak. Not about fear. Not about yesterday. About the future. My heart thudded. I set the cup on the counter. I looked at him fully. Yes. I am listening. He stepped closer. His scent brushed mine. He took a slow breath as if choosing his next words carefully. You brought life back to this house, he said. His voice was steady. You changed my son's world. You changed mine. I want to build something real with you. Not temporary. Not uncertain. I want a family with you. If you want that too. My breath caught. The words landed deep. I needed to be honest. I needed clarity. I whispered, Aiden, are you sure? This is a big choice. Bigger than anything we have faced yet. He lifted his hand and brushed his fingers against mine. The touch startled me with its tenderness. I have never been more certain. Before I could respond, Bean toddled toward me with a curious expression. His tiny hand reached up as if wanting to join the conversation. I lifted him onto my hip. He played with my collar. His presence grounded me. Aiden watched him with thoughtful eyes. When his gaze returned to mine, it carried something steady and unshakable. Eli, he said quietly, I want to be a parent to him as much as I am to Lucas. If you allow that, if you let me, the choice is yours. But I am ready. Emotion pressed against my throat. My eyes warmed. I looked at Bean, then at Lucas, then at Aiden. My life had been shaped by uncertainty for so long. Now I stood in a home filled with warmth, with possibility, with a future I had once only imagined from afar. I spoke with a quiet tremor. I want that too. I want a life where the children grow up in a home that feels steady. A place where they can laugh and not fear anything. A place where we choose each other every day. Aiden's expression turned bright with relief. He stepped forward and placed a hand over mine. The warmth of his palm spread across my skin. Thank you, he murmured. Hours passed. The house filled with small moments. Bean crawled into Lucas's space to share toys. The boys played together as if they had always belonged to the same family. I cooked lunch while Aiden helped slice fruit. The air smelled faintly of herbs and fresh bread. Everything felt strangely natural, like we had slipped into a life that had been waiting for us. Later that afternoon, Aiden suggested a walk in the garden. I agreed. The children were strapped into a double stroller. The sky lay clear above the treetops. The air carried the scent of greenery after a brief rain. We followed a stone path that wound between rose bushes and tall shrubs. Aiden walked beside me. Our shoulders brushed occasionally. Each small contact left a spark beneath my skin. After a while, Aiden spoke again. Eli, there is something else. I looked at him. Yes. He paused. His gaze softened. His tone dropped. I want to ask if you would consider letting me mark you one day. Not now. Not before you are ready. I only want to tell you that I want that bond. I want that connection. But only if you choose it freely. My throat tightened. A mark meant truth. It meant devotion. It meant forever in the language of Alpha and Omega. I held onto the stroller and breathed slowly. I whispered, Aiden, that is not something I take lightly. I know. He touched my arm gently. His voice was warm. I will wait for you. As long as you need. I nodded. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for not rushing me. He smiled at me in a way that left my heart trembling. Evening came. The children slept early after so much activity. The house glowed with warm lights. I cleaned up the kitchen while humming softly. Aiden entered with a quiet step. He watched me for a moment. His eyes carried that familiar brightness again. He approached slowly as if giving me time to stop him if I wanted distance. He leaned against the counter beside me. His hand touched mine. His thumb traced the back of my hand. The intention in his eyes was unmistakable. Eli, he whispered, I have something for you. I turned to him. What is it? He opened a small velvet box. Inside lay a simple ring. A band with a subtle shine. Nothing extravagant. Nothing loud. Something humble and sincere. My breath stopped. Aiden spoke very quietly. I want to marry you. If you will have me. I want to share my life with you. I want us to raise the boys together. I want to give them a future where love is constant. I want to give you a home where you will never have to fear again. His voice softened. Say yes when you are ready. If you say no, I will still stay by your side. I felt warmth flood my eyes. I touched the ring with careful fingers. The simple beauty of it made my throat close. I lifted my gaze to him. Yes, I want this. I want you. I want a family with you. Aiden exhaled sharply. Relief rippled across his expression. He slid the ring onto my finger. The moment felt like light shifting through my entire chest. I stepped closer and wrapped my arms around him. He held me with a deep steadiness. Our scents mingled in the quiet air. He whispered against my hair, "You have no idea how long I have waited for this." I closed my eyes and held him tighter. The next weeks unfolded like the slow blooming of a long-hidden flower. I finished my final coursework. I accepted the position at the support center for single Omega parents. Aiden attended every meeting with unwavering pride. The children grew more inseparable with each day. The wedding took place in a small garden behind the house. The air shimmered with late afternoon light. Flowers opened softly around us. Our vows were simple. Our hands trembled. Our hearts were steady. When I said I do, Aiden looked at me as if I had given him something sacred. He kissed me with a tenderness that made the world quiet. Later that night, he asked softly, "Are you ready for our bond?" I nodded, my voice steady. "Yes." Warmth surged through the space between us. His scent deepened. Mine reached toward his. The connection settled like something ancient. Gentle, steady, real. A family formed not by circumstance, not by fear, not by desperation. A family shaped by choice, by strength, by love that did not waver. I held Aiden's hand as the children slept nearby. Our world finally felt whole. A life that began with uncertainty now stood firm. I whispered to the quiet room, "We are home." And for the first time in years, the words felt true. Thank you for listening to this story on Love Waves, where every tale follows the rhythm of the heart. If this journey moved you, stay with us for more worlds filled with devotion, healing, and the quiet courage it takes to love. Every week we share new stories that carry tenderness through every moment, from gentle beginnings to unforgettable endings. Let Love Waves be the place you return to whenever you need comfort, warmth, or a spark of hope. Until next time, hold love close and let its echoes guide you forward.